As communicable diseases spread from one person to another, we can control these diseases in two ways. One is by killing the pathogen, second is by understanding and then dealing with the means of spread. How does it spread? What helps to move pathogen from one person to another? After all, it cannot go on its own. So, how that happens? It can happen by through air, water, food, direct contact and even some insects, right. So, let us study which diseases are spread by air. By air, both bacterial and viral diseases spread. Which ones? Bacterial disease, TB, virus, cold, flu, chickenpox, measles, polio and so on. Now, that is why it is very important that when a patient is there, that patient must be isolated, because wherever he will breathe, sneeze or cough, the pathogen will go into air and from air it can attack a new healthy person. So, what we need to do is kill it there itself, just like ideas. When a bad idea or a socially harmful idea spreads, what we need to do is nip it when it is only in the bud form. So, if the patient is also a source of infection. That is why even in our ancient culture, we believed in isolating a diseased person, not because we do not love him or her, or not because we do not want to take care, but actually because we want to take care. So, we isolate that person, separate his clothes and utensils till he or she recovers. So, the diseases spread by air are these. Then water. Water is very important. These days all of us have filters or ROs and all that, but the best thing is always to boil water, because by boiling the bacteria get killed. And of course, these days we are also using ultraviolet rays to kill the bacteria. And why do we need to drink right kind of water? Because of these pathogens. So, again bacteria and virus. Bacterial diseases that spread through water are typhoid, cholera. Viral disease, hepatitis. So, we have to be very careful about water, especially in summers and rainy season, because at that time the infectious diseases are at their pinnacle. Another thing is that cholera also spreads through food. What happens in cholera? There is diarrhea, there is vomiting. So, there is excessive loss of water, which means dehydration. In pre-independent era, cholera was very common and it used to spread on large scale. The diseases which spread on large scale are called epidemics. Like we had epidemic of plague in Surat quite recently. Sometimes you must have noticed when you go for a party, a marriage party or a fair where large number of people are eating food together, there is food poisoning. When you come home, there is diarrhea, there is vomiting. When bacteria of course is the cause of food poisoning, but a certain type of fungi also can cause food poisoning. Canned food can also cause food poisoning. That is because of a bacteria, Clostridium. So, we have to be very careful about the kind of food that we eat, and that is why they say never leave your food uncovered and never buy food from hawkers like cut fruits and other cut vegetables like cucumber, because if flies are sitting on it, then they will leave the germs on it. So, we have to be so careful about food. And you know, according to Indian culture, we never enter kitchen without taking bath. We never take dirty shoes and chappals into kitchen. We always wash our hands before cooking and before eating. Why? It is not only because it is part of Indian culture, it is very scientific, because that is the cause of diseases, that is the source of infection and the pathogens. So, be careful while eating food. Then direct contact. Certain diseases also spread by direct contact like leprosy, and chickenpox. This does not mean you have to hate the patient, but you have to be careful. So, another kind of contact is physical contact, the sexual contact. Some diseases like syphilis, gonorrhea, even AIDS spread through sexual contact. So, that is why now that you are growing up, you have to understand that you have to be very careful with whom you want to, when you grow up of course, with whom you want to have a sexual contact with. It has to be with a known person, one person within the marriage, right. So, then is the insects. House flies, cockroaches and mosquitoes spread diseases. Female Anopheles mosquito spreads malaria. Malaria is caused by malarial parasite called Plasmodium, but it spreads by mosquitoes. That is why do not allow stagnant water to collect where mosquitoes breed. Use mosquito nets or mosquito repellents to protect yourself from diseases like malaria, filaria and dengue. So, these are the ways we can. The most important way to deal with this is isolation, hygienic conditions. Isolation so that the infection remains localized, right. And second is hygiene, because when hygiene is not there, then there is garbage all around. When our body is not clean, then there are more chances of infection. So, hygiene does not mean only to clean your own home, your street, your drains, the entire environment has to be hygienic and clean. That is why they say cleanliness is next to godliness, that it is like worshipping. You must take bath, brush your teeth, comb your hair, have a body hygiene, have a domestic hygiene. There should be, the waste should always be covered in a dustbin. It should be thrown properly, not made heaps outside your home. So, hygiene and isolation. These are the two ways to prevent and to protect us from communicable diseases.